Trial starts tomorrow for Bill Cosby in Montgomery County. The comedian accused of drugging and sexually assaulting a Temple University employee at his Elkins Park home back in 2004. Cosby, who has not spoken much in public, has maintained his innocence. He had a message for his supporters. This was after the jury was selected last week in the Pittsburgh area. 4 white women, 6 white men, 1 black woman, and 1 black man.
In closing, I just want to thank all of the people who have come to see my shows whenever I appeared at Heinz Hall, and thank you all.
We're going to put some witnesses on the stand. We're confident in the case we have and look forward to getting it in a jury's hands.
In court late last month, Cosby's lead attorney said the prosecution was systematically excluding African Americans after a black woman was dismissed by prosecutors. The question now, how will race play out in his trial, if it will at all? Joining us this morning to talk more about it, Albert Soler and Joseph Marrone with their insight on the case. Who wants to start off answering that question? I'll start with you, Albert. Will race play a role in the case?
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me. You know, in every case, I think people bring their own individual ideas, their experiences, their life experiences. Anytime you have different races, I think it does play an absolute role. And, you know, the Sixth Amendment gives everyone the right to have a speedy public trial by an impartial jury. The question is, today with social media, today with news, today with fake news, real news, can we have that?
Joseph, I was asking you, why would his lawyers allow the jury to be seated in that way, looking at the numbers? And you say they kind of don't have control over all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many people you can pick from in the pool of jurors that are provided in that particular county. Whatever was there, that's who they had to pick from. Each side is entitled to challenges, which they utilize them. But if you recall, last week, there was an issue that came about race in the jury selection. They were saying that the prosecution was systematically using their selections to eliminate black individuals, and an objection was made on the record by the defense attorney, rightfully so, because that's his job to do that.
Right.
Plus, he's trying to preserve the record for appeal issues. But does race play a factor in this case? I think not. I think it's something that the Cosby team is trying to do in order to help them in their case. I think ultimately it could backfire. Okay. Because Cosby obviously is an international celebrity that became an icon. And becoming an icon, he embraced the entire country. And at some point in his career, he demeaned the black community, trying to reprimand them to clean up their act. True. So now, all of a sudden, this man is in a bad spot, and he's reaching out to the black community for their help. Ultimately, if some of those people on that jury, specifically the 2 black individuals, are of that mindset, it may backfire. Okay.
Let's talk about age. A lot of people, I'm an 80s baby. I remember Mr. Huxtable. You know, do you think that affects the jury pool as well, knowing who's there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I think a lot of people, again, bring in their personal ideas into the jury box, into deliberations, and he's America's dad. And he came into everyone's homes, and everyone loves them. And you will also have the issue of privilege here. We have a celebrity who is couldn't be seen as being maybe above the law, can be seen as being maybe having that kind of influence over folks and taking advantage of his celebrity. But yeah, age I think will play a factor. But again, we got to temper that with the idea that social media and news, he's familiar to everybody.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Joseph, following up on that, what Albert was saying. Can he truly have an impartial trial?
Listen, there's no question. This case is going to come down to credibility and the reliability of not only the witness, but you've got to remember now, the judge in this case allowed one of the other victims to testify. Right. So that's going to expand this case. And additionally, one of the most crucial pieces of evidence in this case is his deposition testimony from the civil case is now going to be allowed to be admitted into the case. And in there specifically, he talks about giving young women quaaludes for sex. So now you take his own words, present them to the jury, another woman who experienced a similar encounter, and then the victim herself, it becomes a more difficult case. The way the defense wins this case, they have to hard on cross-examination, into her credibility, into inconsistencies. They got to raise that doubt.
And do they have to be a little delicate with her because, in her words, she's a victim?
That is correct. If they go too hard on her, the jury may think that as an insulting move on behalf of maybe the defense. But at this point, I think Cosby has nothing to lose. I think his defense team has to be strong on cross-examination and undermine her story, because her story's clean. The bigger problem is you have another woman that has come in and has a similar story. Plus, you have the overflow of the media that has happened over the last year. I mean, we all know that those jurors know there are more than another woman. There's many women. In fact, there's as much as 50 that's been said in the media. So that plays into it. And then again, the biggest problem, I think, that when the judge allowed his deposition transcript testimony, these are his own words, sworn under oath, to come into evidence where he says that he gave quaaludes to women for sex, that becomes very, very detrimental to him.
And it seems tough to me to have him in this hot seat, but he's not going to testify on his own behalf. But he's spoken in the media several times, and sometimes you look up and you're like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, as Joseph will probably comment on as well, it is always better to have your client not get on the stand.
Okay.
They would realistically probably pick him apart on this one. One of the victims' testimony is allowed to come in on this, but there were over 60, I believe, women who have similar issues. So it's a strategic move on the part of the defense to have him kind of keep it zipped and let the evidence speak for itself. And, you know, on the other hand, really quick, another important point is to understand that they're going to hear evidence. And the jury is going to hear evidence, and also the victim is going to have her opportunity as well.
All right. Thank you both for coming in. Thank you for the perspective.
Thank you very much.
Of course, we'll be covering this from start to finish here on Fox 29.